Welcome to Morning Coffee. It's your girl Tammy coming at you again today with an encouraging word. We are just gonna jump right back into it. If you are joining us for the first time, we have been journeying through the book of Ruth. We are taking our time and just gleaning from the scriptures, and we made it to chapter 2 verse 3 last time, so we're just gonna pick right up where we left off. I'm gonna start at verse 4. So if you can remember, for a couple of days ago, Naomi had gone out into the field, and she just so happened to end up in the field of Boaz. So we're picking up right where that left off. So verse 4 says, "Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. 'The Lord be with you. The Lord bless you,' they answered. Boaz asked the overseer of the harvesters, 'Who does that young woman belong to?' The overseer replied, 'She is the Moabite who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, 'Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters.' She came into the field and has remained there from morning until now, except for a short rest in the shelter." So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jugs as the men have filled them." At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?" So I'm just going to stop right there for a second, because on Monday, remember, I was saying that Ruth was a Moabite, so she would not even have been welcomed to glean. She was just there to pick up the scraps, pick up the leftovers. She finds herself in this field, and they allow her to pick up the scraps behind them. But as we read, we can see that she's a hard worker. Like, she has been out there. It says she has been out there from morning until now, and has not been working except for a short rest in the shelter. So something about that catches Boaz's attention. Now, we also know that he's probably now putting a face with a name, because if you remember, when Naomi returned, the town started talking. So everybody in the town is talking about how Naomi, has come back to Bethlehem from Moab, and she has brought with her her daughter-in-law. So everybody kind of knows what's going on, but he hasn't quite put that face to the name yet. So now he's actually saying, "Oh, okay. So this is the one. This is the one who's come back from Naomi." And it actually, if we keep reading, it says, Boaz replied, "I've been told about all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with the people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you richly be rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." So he's putting this name to the face, or face to the name now. He's like, "Oh, okay, you're the one. You're the one that came back, that decided to make God your God, and may he repay you richly because you've decided to take refuge in him. He's going to repay you richly now." So he's telling her, "Hey, you don't have to leave this field. You can glean in my field. You can come and get some water when you're thirsty, from the jars that the men had filled with water." When she could stay there and nobody would harm her, she wouldn't be harmed. No men would harm her. So she has favor now. One, God has led her. She's in this field. She's working hard. She's serving God. She's noticed by a man of God who is in high standing. And he takes notice of her and says, "Okay, the Lord's going to repay you. The Lord's going to bless you because you're taking refuge in him." Let's keep reading. In verse 13, it says, "May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord," she said. This is Ruth talking to Boaz. You have put me at ease by speaking kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servants. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar. When she sat down with the harvesters, he offered her some roasted grain. She ate all she wanted and had some left over. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men, let her gather among the sheaves and don't reprimand her. Even pulls out some of the stalks for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her. So she has like double favor now. He's saying, hey, work in my field. I've told the men not to harm you. You can work behind with the women that I have working for me. When you're thirsty, you can come and drink. And now he's even telling the other harvesters, hey, pull some out on purpose, leave some behind just so she can have some. So we see that as she has made God her refuge, she just has this abundant supply now, and she has this favor that's come upon her because she has decided to make the Lord her God. So we'll keep reading. In verse 17, it says, so Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah. She carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten enough. Her mother-in-law asked her, where did you glean today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. Then Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one at whose place she had been working. The name of the man I work for today is Boaz. She said, the Lord bless him, Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. He has not stopped showing his kindness to the living and the dead, she added. That man is our close relative. He is one of our guardian redeemers. Now, if you can remember from Monday also, we were talking about how in this culture and in this time, if a man died, the closest male relative had the responsibility or the duty to take on his family, take on his land, all his possessions, and continue on so that the name could continue. They would have more sons, and that name would just continue throughout the generations. So here, when Ruth comes back and she sees how blessed she is, how much she has, she says, hey, where have you been working all day? And she said, hey, I've been in the man's name is Boaz. And he said, oh, blessed be him. He is our redeemer. He's come to redeem us. So I'm going to stop right there for today. But I just want to point out one thing, that when we choose to serve God, when we choose to put our focus on the Lord, he gives us favor. He gives us supply. He gives us more than enough. And I love that. I love that Boaz says, may the Lord repay you for what you have done. You're going to be richly rewarded by him because you've decided to take refuge in him. And I just love that, because as we decide even today to take refuge in him, he shows us his favor. He shows us his protection. He shows us his blessing. So I just want to leave that with you today. Join me again on Friday. We're going to pick right back up where we left off. We're almost in chapter 3. There's only 4 chapters in the book of Ruth, short book. So we're almost done. But like I said, we're just going to take our time and go through this. So it may take another maybe half a week or so, or by next week we'll be done. But we're just going to glean as much as we can from this book and get all of the richness that we can out of it. So take that with you today, and I will talk to you soon. Be blessed.